To finish out our recent Razer laptop reviews, today we've got the Blade 14. The screen has the same questionable glossy finish that the 16 has, with the added caveat of an unorthodox resolution. But if you like the glossy screen, as I learned some of you do, or the screen's finish simply isn't that big of a deal for you, this is a great option that packs plenty of power and gives you as smooth of an experience you could ask for. Plus, it's one of the few 14-inch gaming laptops, so if you need power with maximum portability, or if you've been wanting a new white Razer laptop, this one might be what's been eluding you. There are 3 configurations for the Blade 14, each separated by 300 US dollars, all of which use the AMD Ryzen AI9 365 CPU. The base option starts with an RTX 5060, 16GB of LPDDR5X 8000 RAM, and a 1TB PCI Express 4.0x4 SSD. Next, we've got a 5070 with 32GB of the same spec RAM and the same 1TB SSD, and this middle option is the only Razer Blade this year that comes in white and is only available in the UK, Germany, and the US, which seems like an odd choice, but I guess it's all white. And for the top of the line Blade 14 configuration, you keep the 5070 but double the RAM to 64 gigs and the SSD to 2 terabytes. A couple things to keep in mind. The RAM is soldered and therefore can't be upgraded in the future, so don't skimp on whichever version you buy. The SSD, on the other hand, is upgradable up to 4 terabytes, and unlike the desktop 5070, this one got cut down to 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which doesn't affect most things but is worth noting for all you unoptimized game enjoyers. Anyways, let's talk about the 14-inch OLED display, which looks incredible with an amazing 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio, 120Hz refresh rate, 0.2 millisecond response time, NVIDIA G-Sync, Kalman verified colors that cover 100% of the DCI-P3 color space, and up to 400 nits of brightness. And its biggest flaw, in my opinion, is the same as the Blade 16. The screen is insanely glossy, and beyond being a magnet for glares and fingerprints, breaks your immersion in loading screens or dark screens by jump scaring you with your own gamer face, which is just as sad as that's where OLED gets to show its stuff. But the resolution is also funky. The Blade 14 actually has more pixels than the 16-inch version at 2880 by 1800, and it's hard to see the value because a lot of games don't support 16:10 aspect ratios at all, let alone more obscure resolutions like this, meaning yes, it's a great high-res display, but you won't be able to fully utilize it in most games. Why they decided to use these specific panels is probably because that's what the 14-inch panel market looks like and not necessarily a choice that they intentionally made. When it comes to ports though, the Blade 14's got plenty. 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A's, an HDMI 2.1, micro SD card reader, 3.5mm combo audio jack, the power port, Kensington lock, and 2 USB 4 Type C ports, both of which can display out via the integrated graphics and support power delivery 3.0 in order to charge the laptop at up to 100 watts. And like the 16, there's no Ethernet port, but you do still get Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4. You also get the same style 6-speaker setup both the larger laptops have, complete with the Smart Amp and THX spatial audio. There's also a dual array microphone and 1080p webcam with infrared for Windows touchless sign-in. If you're a geezer who prefers to log in via analog means, the keyboard feels pretty great with 63-gram actuation force and looks even better with the RGB backlighting and the feature that again we think should be standard in laptops: dual LEDs for the multi-function keys. There's only 1mm of travel, which is on the shallow side, but given how thin the laptop is, we'll give it a pass. Oh, also the glass touchpad is big as hell at 5.75 by 3.25 inches, and while there isn't a ton of travel, it is very clicky and easy to use. Now, speaking of the thinness, the whole laptop is only 8.83 inches deep, 12.23 wide, and 0.62 to 0.64 inches thick. The reason the thickness varies is the thermal hood design. It is a lot less prominent than the larger laptops, but still does have a slight hump to fit 2 fans into this thing, which dump all the heat out the back. And there's also a huge vapor chamber that uses new Honeywell thermal gel in 0.05mm fins, all of which work together to cool the CPU and GPU while gaming to about 78 and 81 degrees Celsius respectively. The chassis is made from a single block of CNC milled aluminum with an anodized black finish, making it really sturdy, and that combined with the 72 watt-hour battery, which lives for 3.5 hours of continuous YouTube via Chrome, and the whole thing still only weighs 3.6 pounds, which makes it perfect for any of the on-the-go purposes that you may have. And while gaming, the battery only lasts about 70 minutes though, so make sure you've got the 200 watt power brick or a powerful USB-C charger with you for any impromptu LAN parties. Also, maybe get something to get rid of all these fingerprints, because while there is a resistant coating that I'm sure blocks a decent amount, a lot of your toucher marks will still accumulate. Or you can take the easy way out and cover it with a bunch of stickers or one of Razer skins, and if you like Razer's laptops but don't want to represent them or scream gamer in public, you can get the Mercury version of the skin and it will cover up the backlit logo entirely. Now, the model that we have to test today is the middle of the road $2,700 option with a 50, 70, and 32 gigs of RAM, although it is 14% off currently, making it $2,300. When it comes to power settings in this thing, there's 4 different modes: performance, balance, silent, and custom. Custom mode lets you adjust the core and memory clocks of the GPU and adjust the power limit or undervolt the CPU. Why they won't let you do both is beyond me. We left custom out of our comparisons because it showed little or no gains, can technically void your warranty, and the amount you can squeeze out of each individual laptop will be different. So we'll stick to the 3 presets. We ran 6 synthetic benchmarks, the results of which will be up on the screen for you here. And if you're curious, a synthetic benchmark is just an application that simulates different types of workloads for the hardware. Think different production software, AI, file processing, video and image rendering, really anything that gets the hardware juices flowing. For the actual gaming performance, we ran some tests in all 3 power presets, but as mentioned earlier, this display is a weird resolution and a 16:10 aspect ratio, which caused the resolution options to be a crapshoot. Most games like Cyberpunk and Black Myth Wukong were able to just crop it to 16:9 and run it at 2880 by 1620, but the closest resolution in other games like Monster Hunter Wilds was 1440p. But anyways, we did 2 main rounds of testing, one with the closest to native resolution possible and one at 1200p, both with ultra settings, no upscaling. And this little thing was able to pump out decent numbers in Cyberpunk at 1620, with performance mode getting an average of 30 FPS, balance got 28, and silent got 23. Although it is a lot more comfortable at 1080 with 67 FPS in performance, 63 in balanced, and 51 in silent. But if you want ray tracing, that number gets chopped back in half with 37, 30, and 26 FPS. On average, between the 3 power modes at 1200p with performance as the baseline, you only lose 3% of the average FPS going down to balance. However, the 1% and 0.1% lows board the struggle bus, being 15% and 27% worse respectively. The good news is balance only uses 87% of the power that performance mode does, so it is much more efficient. The bad news is that only equates to about 16 watts, taking it down from 125 to 109, and the GPU only runs a couple degrees cooler, so you likely won't get any real benefit by choosing balance. With silent mode, on the other hand, it does lose 20% of the gaming performance, but it only uses 60% of the power and keeps both the CPU and GPU about 10 degrees colder. So while performance and silent both have their uses, balanced is more or less the worst of both worlds. And now that we've established that for gaming you'll almost certainly just use performance mode, let's go over how it did in our 20 game test suite. First off, Indiana Jones is excluded yet again because with 8 gigabytes of VRAM you can't run it at any more than medium settings. But for the other 19 games at 1800p, it got an average of 53 FPS with 31 FPS 1% and 26 FPS 0.1% lows, and in 1200p that jumps up to an average 83 FPS with 45 1% and 35.1% lows. So the surprise of nobody, the mobile 5070 can't quite support gaming at 60 FPS with over 5 million pixels, but if you cut that down to just 2.3 million, it becomes a much smoother experience. Overall, the Blade 14 is a solid, compact laptop with great construction and materials. The look is as sleek as ever, it's really thin and lightweight while not feeling fragile in any way, day and still has the standard amount of battery for a gaming laptop. The user experience is great with the nice keyboard, giant trackpad, and a ton of ports. And then come the quirks, having only one configuration of this laptop being offered in white, and even that is only available in a few countries, and the screen that can function as a mirror. Granted, the image quality is incredible, especially due to the high pixel density of the 14-inch 2880 by 1880 panel, but the resolution itself introduces its own issues if you're trying to play games natively. The price is on par with other 5070 laptops, but most of them are from Asus and use the slightly older Ryzen 270, which have worse energy efficiency, so you should expect higher battery life and a better deal in general from the Blade 14. You also get a 1-year warranty for the laptop, and the battery has its own 2-year warranty, which is a nice inclusion. And while this doesn't have quite enough power to dethrone the Blade 16 as our personal favorite, it is a great option if you want a 14-incher, as it does pack a punch, and you can still play pretty much any game you want. You just might have to lower your settings a little.